Welcome back, everybody, to Marconomics 101 presents Hoot Loop, the most informed, amusing, and not misleading show you will ever see in your entire life. We say be informed, be amused, but never be misled. And the show today, ironically enough, is called The Greatest Scam in History, the greatest money scam in history, actually, and it's going on right now. I'm going to break this story. I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on. And unfortunately, it includes a lot of friends that I have who refuse to believe it is a scam. And I hope they watch it. And I hope a lot of people watch it because you can save yourself an awful lot of money by not falling into this, okay? I'd like to also mention that our special guest next Saturday is going to be none other than Bill Murphy, who is a heavyweight in the gold and silver industry, chairman of the Gold Antitrust Committee, and he is an expert as you get, as authority as you get, and we're going to have him from Texas next Saturday, okay? So please watch that show. You're going to learn a lot. I'm going to learn a lot. I learned something on this show too, by the way, and I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. So if you would, today is May 26, 2021, and if you would be so kind as to like and subscribe right down here, I would be thrilled. And we will be right back with the charts and some amazing information for you. Welcome back, everybody. I neglected to mention something very important. I got a lot of the information that I'm going to talk to you about today from a really brave man named John Gary from Nigeria. Not only did he change my understanding of Nigeria, he provided me information that was accurate to the nth degree. I'm proud to call him my friend, and he makes palm oil, which was one of Nigeria's biggest exports. And John, I appreciate everything you did. I hope you guys appreciate out there that I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning 2 nights in a row, which is why I probably will sound so nutty today. And but I won't have my Tourette syndrome. I think that's over. Or well, at least I thought it was over. I still don't have that stimulus check, but it's okay. All right, so, and also with Bill Murphy coming next week, all of the last Saturday, today, and the next Saturday show are going to form an arc where you're going to see the connection between all these things, and they're all connected. And so, Bill writes La Metropole Cafe magazine or newsletter, and we're also going to make sure that we have these available to you at next to nothing. This show's free. This is a public announcement and a public service, and we do this because it's got to be done. Someone's got to tell the truth, and in John's case, it's even more dangerous than it is for me. So, but then what the hell, I risk my life for you guys. All right, so we're going to start with Bitcoin, and what else? What else does anybody talk about? But today's show is about scams involving Bitcoin. All right, and if you didn't think last week's show showed you what a scam it is, I'm going to tell you about it now from a different point of view. Okay, so Bitcoin has behaved exactly as we've predicted. It broke down, it found support where it should have, below the last ascending wedge. It's bounced off a little bit, a little strong bounce, but over the weekend, the thing got clobbered for 12% in a day. Now, do you know if the Dow has gone down 10% or more in a day, probably 5 times in history? This thing goes down or up by 10% a day, probably 50 days a year. How could you buy something with that? See, this is closer to currency than Bitcoin. And the reason is, if it was from a hotel, it actually is a blank one from the Marco Lazio Hotel, which is part of the Venetian Marconomics 101 Hotel in Las Vegas, you could trade this in for $100 back at the hotel. So it's $100 for this, $100 for that. You can't go into 7-Eleven, though, and spend it into $100. If you could, it'd be a real currency. That's how easy it is. All right, so let's start with Bitcoin. Horrible. I'm going to say this, there's still people bullish on it, think it's going to have a bounce, buy the dip, blah, blah, blah. I got to tell you, with that spike in volume of people getting the hell out of it, people are starting to wonder about it, not just because of our show, but it's strange. There are things that just can't be answered about Bitcoin, and we asked a lot of those questions last week. I hope you go back and see it, because if you can answer those questions, and I said this is circumstantial evidence, but on the other hand, if you can actually give me real evidence, I'll take it into account. I'll mention you on the show, because we want the truth here. I'll speculate based on facts that are circumstantial, but they're facts. Okay, I'm not going to speculate on something I know nothing about or is common wisdom, like the fact that they're limited to 21 million coins. I have no idea, neither do you. There's no prospectus. There could be 100 million. There could be 2 million. We just don't know. We're going to go on to the Dow Jones Industrials. And the Dow Jones Industrials continue to just meander up in that stupid ascending wedge. It's driving me crazy. This thing will keep going up and up and up until it doesn't. And I'd be careful, because when it breaks a pattern like this, a long pattern like this, we're going to see a 1,000-point down day, if not 2,000. Okay? It's not going to break for 200 points. It's going to cascade. The NASDAQ 100, this is the short chart. I'm going to say the same thing I've been saying every time we've had a show for about the last 6 weeks. Ding, ding! No one calls a bell at the top. This is the top. This one will not make a new high. I do not believe. Bitcoin Cash. This thing fell 70%, had a 70% drawdown. Yeah, a little bit of a bounce, but if you see last week's show, it's run by a convicted felon in an offshore island. Okay, that's good news. That also has no prospectus, nor does it have any limits on anything else. It is just Bitcoin Cash, and who knows? Who knows? The thing is, everyone who I talk to about Bitcoin, the smartest people in the world, even me, the smartest people in the world, don't understand Bitcoin. And Ace is the smartest dog in the world, and he understands Bitcoin, but he won't tell me a damn thing. So Tesla is run by the smartest man in the world too, Elon Musk, and it's actually a leading indicator. I always use this because speculative money, the really stupid money, the money that chases price up, they buy high and sell low. They do the wrong thing. You're supposed to buy low, sell high. They buy high and sell low. And that's what they do with Tesla. That's what they do with Bitcoin. And these are the people that I want to know exactly what they're doing so I can do the opposite. I used to be one of them, so I know how dumb I was when I was doing that. You're the greater fool every day of the week. You don't even know it. You can never find one. You're buying on the greater fool theory, but there's never a greater fool when you need one. The Dow Jones Industrials are, I mentioned that, deriving this ascending wedge. I'm going to leave it at that for right now. We will get back to this when it starts to do something. The US dollar is key right now. It is all part of this, because Bitcoin's only transferable to cash, really. There's no e-commerce with a piece of currency that goes up or down 12% in a day. You buy a car for Bitcoin, maybe it cost you $50,000 when you made the phone call, and then it's $60,000 by the time you got there. Okay, so that's the kind of thing you cannot use for any kind of transactions. As a matter of fact, a guy named John Williams, who runs publishes shadowstats.com, I read an article of his recently, and he measures inflation, GDP, and all kinds of statistics the way they were measured in 1980, before presidents came in and started to tweak the formulas a little bit. One of the big differences is between 1980 and today? Well, apparently housing's free. In 1980, housing used to cost something. It doesn't cost anything anymore. It's free. It's free. So, that part is, shall we say, a stretch of the truth. And the Fed, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they don't mind stretching the truth for their boss. So what the hell? They're loyal sort. So the agricultural fund is also going up. Food prices are going up. There's no doubt about it. Big Macs keep going up. My weight keeps going up because I eat Big Macs all the time. But there's no doubt about it. And the thing is, all of these companies are raising prices faster than incomes are rising. I've heard a couple of examples of incomes rising, but they're not rising that fast. Chipotle, maybe a couple bucks. I heard about that. There's been a few places where they're starting to go, wait a minute. Wait a second, I've got $200 and I can't even buy a marble with that? Well, that's it. They're not paying their employees very much. They're not being proactive about saying, hey guys, we know things are tough out there. We'll give you another $5 an hour to help you defray the fact that we can't get anything across the country because all the rails are bottlenecked, the ships are bottlenecked, the cars are bottlenecked, and transportation costs are going up too. That's why you're seeing the transportation companies all of a sudden zoom, and we've showed you that in charts prior. And that's because their profit margins are going up. It is expensive to transport something right now, and it is in shortage. So therefore, you are going to get a premium for it. And who could blame them? It's not their fault. It should be a competitive industry, but unfortunately, the mismanagement of the free market economy has created this right now, and the throwing of dollars at people who spend them on things like Bitcoin and lottery tickets and all kinds of stuff like that, because it's not their money. You know, it just came off the printing press. See, it's not as beautiful as the kind of money that's real money, which is this, the Hoot coin. And this is going to be a real coin. Okay, we're not going to sell it for a ton of money or anything like that. We're going to sell it, but we're going to put, if you want, your picture on it so it can be specialized. I'm going to get a Marco coin, because I happen to be so good looking that if I were a woman, I'd be all over me. So if I can't see myself in the mirror, I'll have a coin with my own image on it. Ace even wants a coin. But seriously, this is going to be a limited edition. You know, we're going to do no more than 500. They will be individually signed. And the artist we have, Katie Devsich, is one of the best I've ever seen, that has just literally started doing it as a profession, but never did it as a profession before, but had the talent. It's just like Mozart, you know, playing the piano at 3. You know, he just, you know, except she did a little later age than that. But all of a sudden, you know, you're seeing a world-class artist appear before our very eyes. So the base metals fund is, you know, tin and, you know, the same things I mentioned before. You know, all the basic materials, tin, iron we can't get anymore, steel we can't get anymore, zinc is real tough. Aluminum, that sort of thing. Copper, well, we can still get it if we strip other people's homes like the mob does. But you know, copper's gone up 800% a year. So it's made, you know, it's consolidating a bit right now, but there's no reason to believe that copper will not continue to go higher from here, especially because copper is in limited supply, while the dollar is in unlimited supply. That's why we're having things go up in price, because some things are limited, and it's going to cost more in dollars to buy them, okay? And every metal, with the exception of 1 or 2, are going up at 800% a year. And we're going to talk about those 1 or 2 and why, and that's going to be why Bill Murphy's going to be here, because he's going to talk about that. He's an expert in that. Lumber, okay, this isn't a metal. It's, you know, it's gone up like gangbusters, come back a little bit, bounced up a little bit. Apparently there are additional tariffs from Canada that have been put on lumber, so it's not getting easier. Tariffs, I'm going to tell you, as an economist, from an economist's point of view, tariffs do not do anyone any good. They just make great headlines. Gold. This is what should be going up. Palladium's going up, platinum's going up, copper's going up, everything that's metallic is going up. Even, I don't know what else I have that's metallic around here, except, you know, I do have a plate in my head. Had to get a plate in my head from all that watching of cable TV, which is the leading cause of mental illness, as you know. And the second leading cause I've determined to be Facebook, because when I look at that, I start to get like seizures. So, but gold is broken out, and that's the interesting thing. This is the action. There's always a bull market, and somebody I know says that has a show, but I'm going to go ahead and borrow his phrase. There's always something that will benefit from the current environment. The problem is people believe that the environment they just saw a little time ago is going to continue on into the future. We have said there's a seismic shift going on, that this is changing. Times are changing. I see the bad moon horizon. Those are the name of some of our prior episodes. Please check back on them, because what we said for the most part has come to pass. We did one called Inflation Nation in October, and that was before anybody was talking about inflation. So gold is broken out. At this point, I believe it has. It has had a false breakout before, but I'll tell you what tells me that's broken out. The first graph we showed you, Bitcoin. And the fact that all of the the cryptocurrencies, all the cryptocurrencies are getting their butts kicked. And there's no coincidence to me about the fact that the dumber money is getting lost, because they're also leveraging these things too. Okay, and the more smart money is moving into things like gold and silver. Gold is in very limited supply. Silver's in very limited supply, and the dollars are in very unlimited supply. You have more. Pretty soon, these are going to be $1, or they'll be worth more than $1. Take $2 to buy one of these. It's made out of plastic. Plastic will become suddenly scarce. All right, so that's gold. Silver now is starting to look really interesting to me. It's not only had a sideways flag, which is really bullish if you've had the kind of move silver had preceding it. It's been in this pattern for almost a year. Everybody, if this breaks 30, everybody that's bought it in the last year is going to be up. And that creates a positive dynamic. There's actually a virtual circle that occurs. Just like the other way around, if it broke down, there'd be a virtuous cycle, or a virtual circle, or a cycle, a bad cycle, a vicious cycle, a horrible cycle, a rotten cycle. All right, that was enough. I was just checking my thesaurus. All right, but silver is in a slight uptrend. Yeah, I drew that in green, and I think it will break 30. I think it will. Its production is going down, is what I understand. Down, not up, down. Gold still produces a little bit a year, but I'll tell you this, those coins that are physical are really, I've seen them at traded premiums that are, to paper silver like GLD and some of the ones, the ETFs that you see, and silver at a premium, because it's easier to create paper than it is to create silver, even if it's a claim on silver. Now, we're going to talk about this next week too, but I'm not sure that what the balance sheet looks like for gold and silver. There are futures contracts, there are all kinds of central banks involved, and we may have a GameStop type of situation where there's too much of this or too much of that, and all of a sudden thing goes berserk. GameStop today went berserk again, believe it or not. We just don't have time to talk about it. 30-year treasuries are still at an incredibly low number. These are going to, John Williams says 11% is the real rate of inflation, okay? I say maybe 6 to 8, maybe 6 to 10, maybe 9 to 10, 8 to 10, something like that. But regardless, if that's the truth, then this should be trading somewhere north of those. This should be trading at 10%. And because this interest rates will set the value of all assets. Just wait till your 50 multiple stock goes down to 10 and it's had a great year. See, that's the kind of market I grew up on. I entered the market at a time just like this. Well, not like this, because this is nuts. But I entered the market at the top. I lost some money. I invested in some stocks. And it taught me an amazing thing. I didn't lose like tons of money, but enough to where I started to learn and gain the interest. So the fact that you all are watching this and learning is fabulous, because you don't have to lose money. Okay, you can make money. We just had a couple episodes on when I was in Hawaii, and the stalker caught up with me. I haven't seen her since, thank God. But in any event, back in that time, we had rates that were so high. They were in the teens. They were up. We had shortages. We had wage price controls, all kinds of bad economic policy, and it lasted for years. Now, the thing I want to say is that, I'm going to talk about the Fed in a minute, but basically Paul Volcker was the Fed chairman in 1980 when rates peaked. They peaked at 18% or so. And one of the things he said was, I sure do regret allowing the price of gold and silver to go up, because they sent out the signal that there was a vote of no confidence in the government. And inflation trades on expectations, okay? In other words, if I believe that there's going to be inflation, and I do, what should I do? I should fix everything I can. I should hoard up on food, because I know it's going to go up in price. I should hoard on gasoline or whatever is going to run out. And that creates an even bigger shortage. And then all of a sudden, well, wait a minute, I need to get paid 10 more percent. I need to get paid 15%. And so all of a sudden, these expectations cause people to take action, which then worsens the situation. So what the Fed is doing is by lying, and they are lying, okay? They are lying. And they're doing that to fool you into thinking everything's just fine, folks. When in reality, it's not. And they don't want to see the price of gold or silver go up either, because that's the final coup de grace on on how poorly we've mismanaged things. All right, 10-year Treasury yields still around the same in a little pattern. These should break out very, very soon. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but now we're going to go to Ethereum, an actual company. This is a real company. There's a president. There's someone who owns it. They do something. I'm not really that that knowledgeable on Ethereum. I do not invest in crypto. I just want you to know that. It's not, I have nothing against people that do. I just don't understand it. And I have studied it more than anybody I know, and I still don't understand it. So, Mark Cuban may be right, and this may be the coming wave of crypto, but he may be wrong. He had to have bought much higher than where it's trading now. It's already lost 50% in about 2 weeks. This is Ripple. This is another real company. Ripple Labs is actually the parent company of Ripple. Ripple is a token. By a token, what they do is they sell the token sells the ability to wire money or to send money to like Mexico and not use the old antiquated SWIFT system. If any of you have wired money, there was a system called SWIFT, and it was anything but SWIFT. It was about as slow as molasses, and it was about as expensive as molasses. And why the hell they came up with SWIFT? Oh, it had to be a government. It had to be the U.S. government, because only the U.S. government calls something by the exact opposite of what it is. That's really the truth. The war on poverty. Notice how during the war on poverty, people have gotten more poor. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. And this is not supposed to be a political show, but unfortunately, politics, world events overlap, and they have to be taken into account. So I have to mention them. And there's some things about Nigeria and China we're going to talk about in just a minute. And, we'll get there. Okay, so Ripple, Riot blockchain, this also didn't bounce. Part of the reason I put in Riot was because this is indicative of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin had a big bounce, but look at Riot, barely. It barely bounced, and it's mostly tied to Bitcoin. Another one, MicroStrategy, look at that. Their biggest asset is Bitcoin. And yeah, they did buy it cheap. They bought it under where it is now, but that could change. That could change. And if you look at it, it barely bounced. I mean, it just barely went up. So I'm not really thinking that there's a lot of confidence that the cryptos are going to go on another leg up. My best gut feel right now is that they are going to work off this bull market, and possibly a lot of them will go out of business. We said 10,000 exist, okay, and that's pretty competitive in my book, and a lot of them, probably 5,000, have already gone out of business. So, and here's my favorite company. The reason I bring up Facebook here is that we're going to talk about the biggest scam in history, the biggest money scam in history, and guess who is at the very center of it? Facebook. Now, I'm not accusing Mark Zuckerberg or an employee of Facebook of being a scammer. Let me be clear about that. But they hold the welcome mat out for every scammer that wants to show up. They own 3 entities: WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook. And those are the 3 breeding grounds for scammers. The biggest scam of all time is going underneath his nose, and he is not doing a damn thing about it. Just don't disagree with him. As long as you agree with him and his political ideology, you won't get thrown in Facebook jail. But if you steal someone's identity, their money, or anything else, me worry? All right, last week we showed you the top 20 list of crypto holders, and the Chinese government is number 3. The U.S. government is, I think it was number 5 or number 6. Number 6. Now, the U.S. government, we do know why. Basically, the FBI, seizes property from people when they make busts. And let me say that they have the ability to have a little foreknowledge of when large Bitcoin trades are happening, I think. And you know, they're pretty successful at bringing these down. But the Chinese government, number three, got me very curious about something this week. And another thing that got me curious is that I'm bombarded every day on those three different platforms. Every single day I'm bombarded twice, three times by a scammer wanting to sell me a get rich quick scheme in which I will never lose money. You know, their uncle, it's always an uncle. My uncle gives me tips, and we make money all the time, and you can draw it anytime you want. Okay, I'm going to show you exactly some transcripts. I went undercover, and I started to get really pissed off at this. So I went undercover, played dummy, and I let him try to sell me, and I'm going to show you those transcripts right now. I have the originals still that we've typed them so you could read them, and I'm going to go through those. I'm going to go through them pretty fast actually, for time considerations, but you know, they'll be there for you to read, and you know, they'll be there on our Facebook page for you to read. Okay, so we'll post them there too later. But why would the Chinese government be number three? Why would they be the biggest Bitcoin holder? And here's another thing I noticed too. These founder of Bitcoin, which I've mentioned, there is none known, is supposed to own 1 million. Do you see anybody on here that owns 1 million? No. Okay, here we go. Crypto scam list, May 26, 2021. Okay, if I'm to print out reported scammers, this is what I get. Okay, this is something like 60 pages of scammers and scams. All right, 60 pages. Okay, this is not uncommon. This is not an every so often thing. This is a coordinated effort to take money from you. And good old Uncle Sam has made you nice and poor, so you're susceptible to it too. But the URL is on here. I strongly advise you to check out whether the company that has claimed it is so honest and ethical is indeed honest and ethical. I can tell you one thing, they keep their money offshore. You have no recourse, okay? All right, so this is the first one. This is a guy named Maximilian. This is a trip. I kind of was an asshole to him. I was kind of nasty to him the first time because I'd been so sick and tired of it. But then I started to think, wait a minute, this is a great show idea. So basically, here's the dialogue. He starts telling me about this great scheme he has, blah, 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 which I get that all the time. Now, he wants to go to WhatsApp. Why? Why can't I just talk to him on the phone? Why can't I have a Zoom call with him? WhatsApp. Who owns WhatsApp? Facebook. So WhatsApp is the place that crooks go to basically con you out of your hard-earned money that the government doesn't already take from you. All right, so let me keep going. Oh, by the way, he calls me a dumb teenager, whatever. And here, I want to show you something too. I actually called him, and I said, are you a Nigerian scammer? And I want to tell you that I want to apologize for that. And I purposely came back and showed that to you because I was under the belief that Nigeria and scam were synonymous. They are not. John Gary is one of the most honorable men I have ever talked to. I'm proud to call him my friend. And I told him last night when I talked to him at 3 in the morning that he has so changed my view on the country of Nigeria. Nigeria is actually being strangled by the Chinese. And there's a ton of information. Nigeria is the largest country in Africa. They are responsible for 60% of the oil that China uses. And basically, China lends them money to construct roads that they can never pay back. And that's to gain leverage. China is looking at Nigeria as a strategic foothold. John told me that. He told me he was scared to death that China was going to come in. Nigeria does not have an army to speak of, okay? And I didn't believe that at first. I didn't believe a lot of the stuff he told me at first. But I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and we looked it up. And every single thing he told me was true. Not one thing was false. I could verify it with articles I have, and if I had 2 hours to talk to you, I would, but I don't. And I don't want to. You'd want to hear me talk for 2 hours. I have a feeling because the truth will come out at some point. Okay, so check this out though. So I called him a nasty name, and here's who he is. He's on Facebook. So Facebook is number 2. So he contacts me on Instagram. This is who he is on Facebook. All right? This is the guy right there. Scotland Yard, if you're watching, that's your guy. Now, he's got an associate. And here's what's interesting. I talked to him at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I was so sick and damn tired of these scammers. But I was up at about 1:30 at night. And I have one friend in common with him. And this woman's name is Jing Jing Su. That's what she calls herself. She calls herself something different. And we have another conversation. I start to tell her that Max, had me connect with her. She doesn't even question that. Okay, she doesn't question it one bit. And basically, she tries to get me to WhatsApp. They all want to con you on WhatsApp. The minute someone says, let's go to WhatsApp, you should smell con immediately. And Mark Zuckerberg, WhatsApp is a con! All right, look at all this. Please read it at your time, at your convenience. I ask questions, and basically, I just wanted to see. A lot of times she kept coming back and back and back, and I'd say, no, let's go to WhatsApp. Why can't we talk on the phone? And I'd say, why can't we talk on the phone? No, we can't talk on the phone. We just can't do that. Okay. Why do you have to talk on WhatsApp? Because you can con somebody on WhatsApp. And who owns WhatsApp? Facebook! And Mark Zuckerberg. That's right, Mark. You are the biggest hypocrite in history, and you know it. Actually, you don't know it. Sociopaths never do. But I'm going to tell you this right now. You have banned people for free speech for 30 days, but you let federal violations go on and on and on and on under your nose, and you don't even discourage them one bit. But fact checker, oh my God, Mr. Algorithm, Mr. Fact Checker, I don't care if you ban me for 30 days. Because I don't, it's the second cause of mental illness, and maybe my Tourette's will go away. All right. I know I'm getting a little too passionate about this, but trust me, this is huge. This stack of papers, okay? These are all the people running it. Do you know how the Chinese got to be the 3rd largest holder of Bitcoin? Do you know? I'm not going to say this because I can't prove anything, but, add 2 and 2 to 4, all right? So here we have another one, a woman named Debbie on Instagram, and I asked her a bunch of questions too. Now, one of the approaches, there's a whole bunch of different scams, and that's what's interesting. Here the scam, one of the scams is, but they always show you fictitious profit loss statements. So the idea is to be like a confidence man, let you win a few games, let you take out a little money, so that you're okay, you're all set with it. But if you then you want to put in more because it's doing so well, and you want to tell your friends all about it, and your family all about it, and everybody all about how much money you just made. And guess what? You've led them all to slaughter, because once one of these people smells that you want your money back at what you think you have, their profile suddenly disappears. And good old Max on Facebook disappeared. A couple others have disappeared. Maybe he put it back on. Maybe he's going to see this. I don't know. But the point is, one woman says to me, she goes, do you know anything about Bitcoin? I said, maybe. She didn't even bother to look at my profile. She was so excited about scamming me. She doesn't happen to know that I know about 1,000,000 times more about Bitcoin than her. And scammers too, by the way. So, we're coming to the end here, but look at these profit statements. They use free margin. They use something called free margin. That margin is borrowed money, okay? And how can you borrow money for free? And some of these are leveraged at 3 to 1, meaning that they're bet 3 to 1. Three times debt to equity. Well, you know what? It's very easy to get a phone call saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, with that margin, we got wiped out. We had a margin call and blah 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 blah." That's going to happen too. The point is, these people to think that a perfect stranger, they won't even talk to you on the phone, okay? They won't. They'll only text. Is going to actually make you 75% to trade. You've got to be kidding me. In today's day and age, you've got to be kidding. So, this is the end of it right here, and I'm just gonna slug through it. And I hope you have a chance to read it at some point, because it really does go through what they do and how they do it. And there's a million different types of scams going on. Some are Ponzi schemes. Some of the people say, well, they say to me, well, I've already taken out more than I put in. Well, if you're invested with Bernie Madoff, you did too. Until that thing collapsed and you had to pay it back. There's a thing here called a clawback. And if you make more money or take out more money than you're entitled to under the performance of the fund, you have to give it back to the fund once it basically collapses. But guess what? They're offshore. So you have no recourse, no clawback, no ability, no nothing. And if you brought your prince to slaughter, oh, I feel bad for you, because I don't know. I honestly cannot tell you who is genuinely stupid enough to believe it and sell you, and who is actually partly part of the scheme. I know that Maximilian's, his girlfriend or whatever, she's part of the whole scheme. But other than that, I don't. But I will tell you this, every time I bring up the possibility of a scam, I get women that are so furious at me, and it's all targeted at women. That's another interesting thing now, isn't it? All 26 to 30-year-old, 32-year-old women who are very pretty. And it's all targeted at them, and then they get so mad if you actually even hint that it could be a scam. So anyway, I just want to tell you all this stuff. Please don't get involved in this scam. If I save one person from getting involved in one of these, today was all worth it. Everything I've done is going to be all worth it, and I hope I save a lot more. And I'm telling you, I will still, if anybody can tell me that they know something that is different than this, I want to hear about it, because I can learn. All right, with that, we're going to be back with closing comments in just a minute. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry I went over time a little bit. I was so excited about being able to take the show. Just another announcement I forgot about. We're even selling the hood coins as jewelry like that. Look at that. Can you imagine anything more beautiful than that? And it's real. It doesn't. It's not computer code. Anyway, it's been a fun time today. We're going to give away. We're going to have some promotions next week for Bill Murphy, and that you can all benefit from, and his knowledge you can benefit from. And I'm tired from ranting and raving today, but I had to. This really pushed my buttons. So with that, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for showing up. And I need a rest.